Good morning, my friends. I am Reverend Elisha Christopher. I prefer the pronouns they and them. I'm a plurality. You know that. And my ancestors on my father's side come to us from Ireland and Scotland, and my ancestors on my mother's side come to us from Austria and Holland. So if you will, let us begin by taking a deep breath in and let go. Take another deep breath. And let go. One more, breathe in. And let go. And so here we are, my friends, once again. And like I said, we are in a time of transition. We are shifting the seasons. Well, we aren't. The seasons are shifting. They're taking us with them. And, you know, we humans really have this thing embedded in us that it is incredibly important to celebrate, to ritualize, and to encapsulate the transitions in our lives. And so that's part of, I think, why we light up our houses and our trees and we throw parties as we descend towards the darkest night of the year, as we start to move into winter, as things get colder and darker, and we need to sort of huddle together around the light of community, the light of celebration, and bring the light in, because I know for myself, winter is a time that it can be a little bit harder to maintain my joyous, fabulous way of being, because just as there's less sunlight, it really does affect our brains. And so we have to compensate in some way, and we do that through celebration, through ritual, through holidays, through celebrating these holy days. And so I want to begin with a quote from Jean Houston and Annalise Smitzman. I've been reading to you from their book this month. And they say that rituals illumine our transitions and our sacred practices for creating the field of possibility in which to plant our new futures and capacities. Rituals draw upon the powers of time, space, nature, the heavens, culture, community, and life itself in such a way that we know that we are the vehicle of these possibilities, whether it be for rainmaking, for healing, announcing a life transition such as marriage or even death, or declaring one's connectedness to a higher purpose or spiritual realities. There is something incredibly powerful for us in the ritualization of our experiences. And I really want us to recognize that this year, and every year really, but as we move through the seasons, especially this time of year. Hanukkah was a couple weeks ago. Christmas is this coming Saturday. From the beginning of November until the end of December, there are 14 religious holidays that humanity celebrates around the planet. And that really says something to me, because humanity, religions, cultures have celebrations of all kinds that hit the seasons and different life transitions. Because without these ritual markers, it's really easy for us to fall into the monotony of life and just feeling like every day is the same. And if we don't acknowledge the transitions, I think that we often get stuck. I just did a memorial for a friend of mine on Friday, and I said to that group, part of the purpose of coming together for the memorial is because if we don't acknowledge the transition, the grief gets stuck in our bodies. And we need the power, the collective of community, to come together and move that grief together. And so rituals, ceremonies are these times of creating special parentheses so that we can do the healing work that's necessary, or call in the future possibility, or acknowledge the transition that's taking place. And so we're going to do that this Tuesday. We're going to have our solstice celebration here, as we do every year. Winter solstice is often the high holy day for this community. And I think that's incredibly important for us to remember, that winter solstice, in this instance, truly is the reason for the season. If we think about all of the 14 holidays that cultures and religions are celebrating in this 2-month period, all of them focus on light. The miracle of light, the return of light, the birth of the light. All of our holidays around this time of year focus on this one idea, that the light is coming back. That for the last 3 months, every day has started to get darker and darker and darker. And in many conversations, many of us know we've been looking out into the world, and it kind of feels like not just this season, but for a long, unexpected season, we sort of seeing that the world seems feeling darker and darker and darker. And many years ago, when I was struggling with deep, deep depression, there was someone who was caring for me at the time who gave me a quote who was attributed to the Buddha. And the quote simply said, "Never forget that winter never fails to turn into spring." That no matter what darkness we are experiencing, no matter what death seems to be happening in the world, no matter how difficult or cold it may be, spring always comes around. And so we come together at the darkest time of the year to light candles, to celebrate, to recognize this symbol of hope. You know, for hundreds, maybe even thousands of years, as it gets dark and gloomy outside, we go to the extent of cutting down the only living thing outside that's still green and bringing it into the house so that we can see it and remember that life continues. Because it's so cold and dark outside, we need to remember. And this metaphor is incredibly important for us, right? Because no matter what the season of darkness we may be experiencing, whether it's simply the approach of winter, maybe it's an illness you're experiencing, maybe it's a difficulty in a relationship or finances, whatever darkness shows up in our life or that we see in the world, whether it be poverty or social or racial injustice, if we see the darkness, we have to find a way to remind ourselves that no matter how dark and cold it may seem, there's a great reminder in the seasons and in the planet itself that says spring will always come. The light will always return. And we need that kind of hope. When we find those difficult moments in our lives, we need those reminders that say it's going to get brighter. It will get better. You know, I shared with you a number of weeks ago, but my friend's memorial that I just did on Friday was a suicide. And, you know, someone in my life very recently was consumed by that despair, forgetting that it could get better, forgetting that the light could return. And it's really easy for us to get consumed by all of that stuff in the world or in our lives that feels overwhelming, that feels like it's taking our light away. And I believe, again, that that's part of the purpose of coming together in community, is being in a space where we can practice, where we can ritualize, where we can celebrate, where we can sing, where we can constantly be reminded that there is a hope, that there is a vision, that there's a possibility, that there's a future, that there's something calling us forward that we're working towards. We call it our global vision and the new story that's emerging here in this community that allows this collective of individuals to see that there is something calling us forward. And we also each need to do that for our own selves. And we need to hold so powerfully, like we've been saying for the last number of weeks, a vision in our mind of what's possible. So that we have something that can wake up in us that we can then bring into the world. Because if you remember the Jean Houston quote from last week, she told us that it's in the power of our imagination and the embodiment that happens in us that allows the abstract to become real. But we have to embody it first. We live in very remarkably rocky times. You know, if you look out at the world, the weather is changing. The culture is changing. Everything is shifting around us. And I said a while back, you know, the thing that we need to do in order to equip ourselves for the world at hand is to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Right? Is to get comfortable with change. Is to get comfortable with the idea that nothing in this world is stable or solid. And yet there is something that is eternal and unchanging. And that is the light within us. that is the true spark that lives within every human being. And I want to see us become a people who are so dedicated to looking for that light in ourselves and in each other and in the world, that light then becomes the vehicle or the vessel or the tool or the power that we have to then bring the illumination that's necessary to the issues that we see in the world. Because I believe, as we say often, if you can see it, it's yours. If you see things in the world that appear to be wrong, guess what? It's yours to do something about. Whatever darkness you might see is the invitation for you to ignite your candle, to carry your light, and to share it with the world. And I am just I've been feeling so incredibly blessed to be a member of this particular community, because I really feel something beautiful is emerging here. And as this shift has been taking place in and through us over the last couple of months, a number of people have started to talk to me about different things that they'd like to offer here. And as we've been moving through this season of harvest, the thing that I've been starting to see is that these little sparks are starting to wake up in different people here. And I think starting in January and in February, we have almost a dozen small groups and or activity things that are starting to take place here in the next number of months, where we can come together in small groups, in smaller spaces than this, to cultivate that light together. And whether it be in meditation on Sunday morning or in Sky's reading or Sky's discussion group, we have an anti-racism book club that's going to be starting. There's a conversation about a recovery and science of mind group. There's a conversation about a women of wisdom group. There's a conversation about a qigong class. There's a conversation about a number of different vehicles and venues that are going to be emerging in this place, where we can come together in little clusters, where we can practice holding the light together around different particular ideas. And the other thing that we're really going to be focusing on in the next number of weeks as we move into the season of light is how we cultivate that light together in community, but also recognizing that we have a beautiful philosophy here that offers us the light of our awareness. And then we have people here who are trained in this philosophy. We have ministers, practitioners, and a chaplain that are available to us. And in the next weeks and months, I really want to highlight the power of leaning into the community that's here, whether it be through our practitioners and ministers, whether it be in the small groups of coming together with each other around different particular activities and ideas. Because the thing that we need more than anything, I think, right now, especially as we move into winter physically, but also as we step into the next level of whatever weirdness is continuing to emerge in the world, we need spaces to lean into each other. Because we can each hold our one individual little light, and there's not enough darkness in the whole world to put out the light of one candle. But if you're in a dark forest wandering through trying to see with one candle, you can only see that little circle around you. You can only see your own circumstances, right? But when you come together and I have my light and you have yours, suddenly the overlap creates something so much more than the two together. And we can see that much more. And it's the overlap of my experience, your perspective and their perspective, that allows us to see a greater picture. And as we've been saying for months and months now here, that each one of us has something that's ours to carry. And when we come together with each of our piece of the puzzle, the big picture can start to emerge clearer and clearer and clearer. And if we ever want to arrive at this vision that we have of a world that works for everyone, and we want to start right here with building that template on our acre of land in this community, as we practice what's possible, as we activate and come together, we become a place where the new thing begins to emerge. And the thing that I know about this group is if the power of collective prayer proves anything, we can do a lot together. Because all y'all prayed for Jason and I to find a new place to live, and I will tell you, it was more than anything we could have imagined on our own. And I say that because it's been such a powerful feedback loop of demonstration for me of remembering that it's the collective attention. We put this little bulletin out in the newsletter for 6 or 8 weeks that said, hey, this is what we're looking for. And many of you saw that every week and brought it to mind. Maybe you prayed for us. Maybe you just had a vision of what it is that we might find, or had conversations out in the world. But we had this one idea that we all cycled around for a number of weeks, very casually. And yet what emerged was like mind-blowing. And we want to have you all over at some point. In small groups. It's been such a powerful reminder to me that when we come together around an idea, it is beyond imagining what's actually possible. And what if we put our collective attention on something much more important than that? What if we put our collective attention with such fervor and excitement around building a world that works for everyone, around solving homelessness in Santa Cruz, around feeding the neighborhood around us, around whatever it is that comes up for us that's our passion? What if we began to focus our collective light, and shine it right onto one idea and bring something new forward? Right? That's the technology that Lynn McTaggart talks about with Power of 8. You bring a group of people together and you set someone in the center and you focus all of your attention on that person, and miraculous healings can take place. Well, let's put our center in the middle of that circle. Let's put each other in the middle of that circle. Our practitioners and ministers and a number of other prayer volunteers get together once a month, and we pray for all of you, for all the prayers that come into the prayer box and the requests that come into prayer@csl.santacruz.org. You're going to want to know that. Prayer@cslsantacruz.org. You can always send a prayer request. We get together once a month and we spend over an hour just praying for you and praying for each other. We want to open up a space where individuals can begin to come in here a couple times a week and just receive prayer if necessary. We want to make our practitioners available for prayer as much as possible, because it's in the collective overlap of our shared mental space that something else emerges, that we have to practice it, we have to do it, we have to engage it. This is a participatory spirituality. And I really believe that if we're ever going to evolve from a me-centered philosophy and new thought to a we-centered philosophy and new thought, that we really have to learn what it means to lean into each other. To realize that we're not here to manifest the cars we want and all the money we want, but we're here to manifest a world that works where everyone can thrive. We have to take it out of the individual and realize that we are here to cultivate something together. And we will allow that thing to call us forward. We don't have to know what it is yet. We can feel it. There's something emerging. And so let us be the ones who hold the light, who cultivate the light. And as you move through whatever holiday celebrations you engage in between now and the end of the year, I just want you to place a ritual marker, a little parenthesis on these things, and remember how important it is for us to be in these celebrations, even if some of our traditions might seem trivial or outdated. There's a deep meaning underneath it all. And it's to remind us that we are here to be the light. And that whatever we see in the world that needs illumination, it's ours to do. And so I want to sum up this idea by reading a quote from St. Francis, which I'm sure you've all heard, as an invitation for us to live into being the light in the world. And St. Francis says, "Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not seek so much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, not to be loved, but to love, for it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life." Amen. And if that could simply be the invitation of what it means to live a life of light, to be love in the world, it's that very thing. Wherever you see the darkness that needs illumination, wherever you see hatred that needs love, wherever you see lack, be the gift. And that's what we're here to cultivate and bring up together. And so I'm going to invite the practitioners and ministers to stand as we move into our time of prayer. Invite everyone else to take a deep breath and let go. And take another deep breath in and let go. And so as we breathe together, my friends, let us once again remember that we are being breathed by something greater than ourselves. That each one of us is being illuminated and lived by the light of life itself. Because in this place, we remember that there is indeed one seamless presence that is living and breathing throughout the entirety of the universe. Perhaps not even just this universe, but all multiverses that could be across this timeline and all possible timelines. One life, one mind, one heart, one power, one being unfolding as absolutely everything. And this one is light. The light of consciousness, the light of love, the light of eternal unfolding. And then in this moment, let us breathe again and remember that we are breathed by this infinite being. We are animated by this infinite life. We are being lived by the one itself. And we come into this place each week to kindle that fire, to awaken that light, to spark that truth within ourselves so that we can feel it so truly, so powerfully, that we then see it reflected in each other. And as we cultivate that awareness here, we then bring it out into the world and bring that light of love with us in our perspective, in our choices, in our actions, in our interactions. And so let us move into the rest of this holiday season and our transition into our season of light. Let us remember that we are a people who are continuously seeking to illuminate our own awareness, so that we can see God in everything, so that we can see possibility in all things, so that we can see what could be and recognize that it is calling us, it is pulling on us, it is living in us so strongly that it is awakening new perceptions in our minds and inviting us to bring new possibilities into the world. Let us remember that God so loved this world that it sent each one of us to bring that light. For you are the light of the world. I am the light of the world. Each one of us is the light bearer, should we so choose to be. And so let us just be in gratitude this morning for the fact that we are here, that each one of us has the privilege to come into a place where we are reminded of this truth. How sweet it is to be in community that celebrates our common unity. And so with this gratitude, let us just surrender to the ever-living, loving law that is unfolding through us in every moment. Let us remember that there is a power for good in this universe that is greater than we are, and it is who we are. It is flowing through us. Let us be a place where it happens on purpose. And let it wake up a little bit more today. Let every candle, every feast, and every gift this holiday season remind us of the truth of who we are and the fact that the light is returning in this world because we are it. And so it is.